So welcome back, and I want to now show you how this works. And so in STATA, we find a data set, and again, you will have this data set available to you online. And so I'm going to use the data set. It's called CHD age. All STATA data sets have a .dta. So anytime you see a .dta, you know it's a STATA data set. And the first thing I ask for is summary statistics of age in CHD. And notice that what it tells me is that it has 100 subjects, and the mean age of the subjects is 44.38 years. The standard deviation is 11.7. And they range from 20 to 69. And it tells me a little bit about CHD as well. It tells me that 43%, because this is a 0-1 variable, 43% of the subjects had evidence of CHD and 57% didn't. And again, minimum is 0 and maximum is 1. Then there's this command that says tabulate CHD. That creates a table based on the level of CHD. And then it gives me summary statistics of the variable age within the levels of CHD. So for those with CHD equals 0, we can see that the average age was 39.175 years. And for those with CHD equals 1, that is those who had CHD, the average age was 51.28 years. Okay, so this is pretty much what they gave me in SysStat. I can see the same sort of thing, that the subjects who had CHD were older by about 12 years than the subjects who didn't have CHD. And then to run a logistic regression analysis. Now, for those of you who've used STATA, you know that to run a regression analysis, you say regress, and then the dependent variable, then the independent variable. In logistic regression, you say logit. And then again, it's the dependent variable and the independent variable. One thing that is very important for me to point out to you is that in this particular data set that I used to develop the notes, CHD was coded with uppercase letters. So CHD is capital C, capital H, capital D. Age is capital A, capital G, capital E. If I tried to do this command with lowercase CHD, it wouldn't recognize the variable. I have to use exactly the same upper and lower case as it exists in the data file. And then it starts in with its iterations, again, step by step. These days, you're all going to be using pretty fast computers, and you will see it won't be exciting at all. This will occur very, very quickly. And finally, you'll have the log likelihood. If you want to just go back in your notes and compare this log likelihood to the one that SysStat gave, you'll see that it's exactly the same. They end up at exactly the same place. And so they're both using the same Newton-Raphson algorithm to come up with estimates for the logistic regression parameters. And the only thing I really want to point out right now, because there's a lot in here and we're not ready to look at it, but it's the coefficients. Again, the constant term is minus 5.31. And the coefficient for age is 0.11. So I know that this is beta naught and beta 1, and I can write the model. I mean, once I know the coefficients, I can write down the logistic regression model. So in fact, here we have, by any program you run, you're going to have the coefficients. Okay, it'll be the same if you run SPSS or SAS or R. No matter what you run, you'll get the same coefficients. You get the same standard errors. It's the standard errors of the coefficients. And this is the statistic where you take the coefficient divided by its standard error. Okay, now in linear regression days, this was called T. In logistic regression days, this is not called T because it's not distributed as a T distribution. So STATA, for example, calls it Z. That's fairly accurate. It's, roughly speaking, normally distributed. SPSS will take the Z and square it, and they'll call it chi-square. It's called the Wald chi-square. So they'll just take the square of the Z, okay? But it's not T. And one of the problems that they had in SysStat was that they called it T, a T statistic, which it isn't. It isn't T. Okay, and so you can see again that, that these are computed. Here are my coefficients. We knew the ages of the people in the various subgroups. So once I have these coefficients from the model, then I can write down the fitted values by simply taking e to the beta naught plus beta 1 times x. Remember, beta naught is minus 5.31. beta 1 is 0.11, so I can write down e to the, essentially e to the logit over 1 plus e to the logit. So if you tell me age, I can plug age into this model, and I can come up with the probability that y is equal to 1 given x. And every age will have a different value, a different estimated probability. So that's it. That's really all I want to say for today, pretty much. Again, once I know the coefficients, I can write down the logit, g of x, beta naught plus beta 1 times x. Looks nice and friendly, just like in linear regression. And the log likelihood that's given in this model, in this case minus 53.677, is the value of the log likelihood computed using these estimates of the coefficients beta naught and beta 1. Okay? So that's it. You're now ready to take a crack yourself. But before you do that, I want to just fire up STATA and let you see what it looks like in case you haven't used STATA before. So, so this is what your screen will look like when you run STATA. And you will have basically a number of windows. The window that I put on the left, and it may not look like this the first time you fire it up, so I would suggest that maybe this is a good way to do it. Put the review window in the left-hand side of the screen. The review window basically keeps track of everything that you did, and it just puts it down, commands one after the other as you type them. You type your commands here into the command window. The results show up here in the results window. This is very handy because when you have results, you may want to take a result, you may want to highlight it, copy it, and then paste it into a Word document. And you can certainly do that. There's lots of stuff that can go into the results window, but eventually it starts to scroll through and eventually starts to drop stuff at the top. So if you're intent on keeping everything that you've done in your session, you may want to establish a log. And that will basically save everything that you do during your session into the log so you lose nothing. Okay, so that's always a good idea. And of course you have other features in STATA, like you have a do file editor. You can run do files, which are essentially sequences of commands. You can save your do files to recall them later. If you forget exactly what steps you did in a model building, save all of your steps in a do file. You can easily recreate whatever you did. So the other thing is that in STATA, you don't have to remember commands. Everything is menu driven. So all you have to do is go up here to the top, and if you wanted to get, say, summary statistics, you go down here into summary and descriptive statistics. Say I wanted to produce just some summary statistics, so I would select that. Then it says what variables you want summary statistics for, and I'm going to choose, say, from the list, I'll choose age. Okay? And then you can get the standard display, or you can display additional statistics. I'll choose that. Now remember, I don't remember any commands, so I did that. And then when I do it, I get this. Now this is the command here. If I wanted to type, I get exactly the same thing if I typed in this command. Notice, see, this command is now here in the command in the review window. But the command that was used is summarize age, comma detail. So detail gives you not only the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, the maximum. It also gives you the 4 smallest observations and the 4 largest observations, or the 4 largest, oldest ages. It gives you the percentiles, 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, and more. It gives you again the mean, the standard deviation, measure of kurtosis and skewness to see if they're relatively normally distributed. So it's fairly complete output that you don't get if you don't say detail. Okay. If I wanted to do this again, say do the same command, notice I would just click on summarize, and then that command goes down into the command window. And then I can say, okay, I don't really need all that detail, so you can get rid of that, run it again, and I have a simple descriptive statistics for the variable age. Or if I remembered the command, I could say summarize age. Right? Notice I went up here and I clicked on age. I don't click on the name age, at least on a Macintosh. I'm not sure what you do in a PC. But at least on a Macintosh, I click the arrow next to age. And then age appeared here. That means I don't have to type in any variable names. I just have to click on the ones that I want, and they're put in automatically. And when I do that, I get, of course, exactly the same thing. If I want to tabulate the variable CHD, I can do that. And here I can see that I have 43 people who have CHD and 57 who don't. So that's the basic working with STATA. We chose STATA to use in this course because you all will learn to use STATA within minutes. If I chose SAS to do the course, it would take you a lot longer till you were up and running and being able to do these procedures. So it's very easy for me to do this. Remember that in the homeworks that I've asked you to do, I've given you lots of homeworks. You're not going to be bored. But I think it's important to have homeworks because homeworks is how you're going to learn this. Okay? And you have plenty of time to do this. You have a week. In this week, you should have plenty of opportunity to sit down with your assignments. I would suggest that when you're doing the homework, read the assignment carefully and think about how you would do it, and then you could work with the solutions as you work through yourself, because that will help you work out how to do this without getting frustrated. There's also going to be forums that you can join, so you may be able to work with some of your fellow students in these questions and how to do all of this. You need to not get frustrated. You need to try to do the assignment without feeling frustrated, getting some help if possible. And as you go through the course, you'll be amazed by the time we're finished with the 8th week of the course how much you really can do in STATA and how much you can do in model building and data analysis with logistic regression. But it is important that you take the time to do these homework assignments. Okay, so have a good experience with the homework, and we'll see you all next week for week 2 of the course.